In a few minutes, I'd like to say a few words on two things. Well, first of all, on French-American relations, for sure, but also giving it a little bit of a New York perspective. In terms of French-American relations, I'd like to start by quoting our ambassador, François Delatte, who in June of last year, in his speech to this noble organization, the French-American Foundation, said, French-American relations have rarely been stronger than they are today. And I think what was true in June is maybe even more true today in early 2014 in terms of the level and number of exchanges that we have at the highest level, and so the level of our presidents and of our cabinet members on both sides. 2013 was made of very dense and intense, frequent consultations. We had the privilege of welcoming in France the Vice President, Joe Biden, the Secretary of State on several occasions, and other cabinet members, not even mentioning members of US Congress. And on the other side, we also were happy here in New York to host French ministers on their way to Washington or on their way back to Paris. And so we had, of course, the French Foreign Minister, Lortholary, but we also had the Ministre de l'Intérieur, Manuel Valls. We had Pierre Moscovici, the Minister of Economy, and many others. So the list would be too long, but we had indeed very many French ministers visiting the United States and New York in particular last year. Now, 2014 is going to be very special for France and the United States, and I'd like to take just quickly, the two highlights of the year. One is the state visit that the French President François Hollande is going to pay to the United States in a little over a month from now. I just said that this is a state visit, which is, in terms of protocol, the highest level of visits that exist. Just to give you a small idea of what that is, the last visit, the last state visit of a French president in the United States was actually in 1996, so something like not quite 20 years ago, but not far from it. So President Hollande will be visiting the United States on February 10th and 11th, and we are very much looking forward to it. This is going to be a very high point for the relations. And French Embassy Washington, as well as US Embassy Paris, are working extremely hard on that, so that the outcomes of the visit are, as high as it should be. In addition to that, 2014 is marked, from a symbolic point of view by the commemoration of two major events of French and American history, the centenary of the beginning of World War I, for one thing, and also the 70th anniversary of the Allied forces landing in Normandy and Provence. So there will be a number of events in both countries, and again, it will be too long for me to mention all of them, but there's one that I'd like to mention because it's going to happen in New York in just a few weeks from now. We are going to celebrate next month at the consulate the commitment of the Harlem Hellfighters along with French troops during World War I. Maybe you're not too familiar with the Harlem Hellfighters. It is actually the nickname of an infantry unit, which is the 369th Infantry Regiment, which is based, initially was based here in New York, and it happens to be the first African-American unit of the U.S. Army ever. It was founded in 1913, And what makes for France this unit so special, among so many things, because the bravery of the soldiers is absolutely unparalleled. But it's because when they were when they got to France for the first time in 1970s, these soldiers were actually embedded with French troops. They were part of a French brigade, and they actually wore U.S. uniforms, but with French helmets. And again, they fought on French soldiers. As a matter of fact, the first ever Croix de Guerre awarded to an American soldier was awarded to a soldier, a black soldier of the Harlem Hellfighters. So we will celebrate this very symbolic, very powerful part of our common history next month here. I said a few words about 2014 bilateral relations, symbolic moments. Let me also tell you that it is very much our intention, as far as we are concerned in France, to continue to work hand in hand with the US on the key international issues of the time. I will just recall that in 2013 there were issues on which we worked really in the closest possible way, including Iran, and I think it's a fair assessment to say that probably the deal that was reached eventually with Tehran would not have been possible if French and American officials had not been working so closely together, especially at a crucial moment during the negotiation process. Let me just here say a few words about Africa, which is yet another issue on which France and the United States are working closely together. In 2013, the help of the United States was critical to France when President Hollande decided to engage French troops in Mali. And yet again, in 2014, Africa is going to be major in terms of common commitment. You know that there is an ongoing operation in the Central African Republic with French troops on the ground, and the U.S. Department of Defense is currently engaged in airlifting African troops from several places across the African continent to the Central African Republic to help French troops deployed on the ground to secure the country. And on that, I would like to add that the French Minister of Defense, Jean-Yves Le Drian, will be visiting Washington as early as next week. He will be in Washington on Monday and Tuesday, precisely, and one of the key topics will precisely be Africa, Mali, and the Central African Republic in particular. Now, there's beyond these political issues, there's also one thing which will keep us busy in 2014, and that's going to be the negotiations of the transatlantic partnership between Europe and the United States. And this partnership will actually cover more than a third of global trade flows and 2/3 of research and development global expenditure. And we see it in France and more broadly in Europe as an historical opportunity to create an even more integrated market supporting jobs and growth across the ocean, across the Atlantic. And even though we know that our economic relationship is very strong, we are convinced that this is a way to make the two economies benefit a lot more from opportunities in what remains the key economic relation in the world